Wow. Errol Spence Jr. is a middleweight in a welterweight body, says former foe, fellow welterweight Danny Swift Garcia. That's what I will talk about in this video. Ahead of a potential Terence Crawford Errol Spence fight. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you come in, smash the like button, SLC, subscribe, like, comment. Now, I know you guys want to see it. I want to see it. Errol Spence Jr. Hey, start that cap versus Smoke 'em like Bud, Terence Crawford. Should be a great fight, one for the ages. Some have even likened the fight to marvelous Marvin Hagler, rest in peace, versus the legend from Detroit, Tommy the Hitman Hearns from the Kronk Gym. And, you know, it very well could be this style of fight. Danny Garcia, in an interview, link in the description with Fight Hype, he says that Errol Spence Jr. is strong and basically he's durable and he's able to take shots because he's basically like a middleweight. Shout out to Marvin Hagler, who was a middleweight. He says Errol Spence is basically like a middleweight in a welterweight body, so he's able to take the punches very well. Now, he also dictated, in the vein of Hagler Hearns, since we're on the subject, that this is a fight that he believes will have a lot of momentum shifts and changes, and he doesn't believe that either guy will just straight up control the fight. He said they both want it. It's going to be a fight that neither guy wants to lose, and they're going to be fighting their heart out for that reason. And he believes it won't be controlled by one given guy. It'll be, you know, it could be back and forth and momentum shifts. And he says they're both strong and they both have power. Danny Garcia has experience not only with Errol Spence Jr. in the pros, but he fought Terence Crawford and he's 1-1 as an amateur. Although he believes that he could have very well have won both of the Crawford fights in the amateurs. I haven't seen it, so I don't really have any statements on who I thought won because I didn't get to see the match. So if anybody got the tape, you know, send it my way. I'm always looking for that. I just recently seen Beterbiev versus Alexander Usyk, and Beterbiev had cracks even back then. He dropped Usyk with a body shot. So it's definitely great to catch up on some of the now stars back when they were amateurs, just to see how much of their fighting style looks the same, how much they've matured, etc., etc. But interesting from Danny Garcia to say that Errol Spence Jr. is basically and practically a middleweight. And I'm just paraphrasing. You guys can go to the link in the description and watch the video yourself so you can hear it uncut, raw, straight from the horse's mouth. The lead-in was basically, he was talking about Jerron Boots Ennis, and he was saying that he comes from Philly and Philly's a fight town. Philly raises champions, so Jerron Ennis is next up, and that's another welterweight you guys should be checking. If you want to see Crawford and Spence, you should definitely be looking for what's just behind them, which is up-and-comer Jerron Boots Ennis, someone I've been high on. But he says that Errol Spence is practically a middleweight in a welterweight body. Now, ironically that Danny Garcia said that because, to be honest, Jerron Ennis looks huge. And he said it about Errol Spence Jr., but he just talked about Jerron Boots Ennis shortly before that. And I know they're both from Philly. But to me, Jerron Ennis looked big. Like, he looked like, if we're going to call somebody a middleweight, I would say Jerron Ennis. Even though Errol Spence, he's a good size welterweight, but so is Kell Brook, you know? Kell Brook was a good size welterweight, and he was even bigger than Errol Spence. But when it comes to Jerron Boots Ennis, I think he's next up. He's no shade and, you know, nothing against him. But just looking at, like, I've seen him next to Ocho Cinco, a football player who's tall or decently tall. And, you know, Jerron Boots Ennis is holding his own. And I've seen Jerron Boots Ennis, he was next to Big Charlo, and he didn't look that small. So it's just ironic that Danny Garcia said Errol Spence is a middleweight. I know they fought, and maybe he felt the way that Errol was able to absorb his power, maybe he felt like, okay, this guy's pretty big. My thoughts are this. In the modern age of 2022 and beyond boxing, the reality is, gone are the days of the Manny Pacquiao, I want to subdue, woo, 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 doo, 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 doo. The guys like Floyd, easy work. I ain't got to worry about, like I said before. He's a young, hungry lion. And Bernard Hopkins. What do I mean by this? Pacquiao, Floyd, B-Hop. What I mean is those days are gone. Those are some of the throwback fighters from yesteryear who, you know, just completed their run and like basically have all retired from the pro rankings and whatnot. And those were disciplined guys who, through late in their career, you know, getting up to their 40s or whatever, stayed fighting really around their walk around weight. They didn't really derive from that. It's not like B-Hop was 215 and then he would come down to 175 or whatever, you know. Same thing with Pacquiao and Mayweather at welterweight. I remember when Floyd fought Canelo, the night of the fight, I think he weighed like 148 to 151, somewhere right around there. Versus, just to give you guys an example, since we're talking about Errol and Terence Crawford, when Terence Crawford was at 135, he fought Yuriorkis Gamboa at 135, which is lightweight, and he rehydrated up to 155. You know, so it just goes to show you that a lot of these guys have the frame and they go through these more drastic weight cuts in this more modern age of boxing. And you can include Jaron Ennis, Errol, David Benavidez, etc. Like David Benavidez could clearly go to 175 if he wanted to, right? And then you see these things. So Danny's saying that, you know, it is what it is. But at the same time, if you're a consummate professional, Errol Spence, he's making the welterweight. He's making the weight. He versus Mikey Garcia was underweight. He was like 146. At the limit was 147. So at the end of the day, he's making weight. He's coming from accidents. He's coming from eye surgeries, and he's taking on top challenges. And even in the Ugas fight, he came in a little bit lighter. So, and I believe Ugas outweighed him. You know, don't quote me on that. So at the end of the day, I mean, you can say whatever you want, but whether he's a middleweight or not, at the end of the day, he's making the welterweight. So we can't really complain, because the same thing goes for really any division, like lightweight. Ryan Garcia is pretty big. Like, he's tall, he's lanky, and he's a young man. So he's kind of coming into his shape, and probably pounds, you know, you start getting more muscle. Like, we've seen Ryan Garcia when he first came out, he looked just like almost really skinny, but now he's putting on a little bit more size, but he's still at the same height. He's making the 135 mark, but he looks more muscular. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's just the nature of modern boxing. Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, they also look like big lightweights where you can see them having a career or moving up to 140. In fact, Teofimo Lopez, for his next fight, he is moving up to 140. He didn't choose to rematch George Kambosos. He left that to Devin Haney. And Devin Haney should fight Kambosos in a rematch this October. Hint, hint. In the last 30 days, I looked at my YouTube analytics and it showed me something. 50% of the people that watch my videos for free on YouTube hit the subscribe button. The other 50% that watch my content for free on YouTube did not hit the subscribe button for whatever reason. This is your reminder that helps the channel grow exponentially and organically, so others who are looking for the content in the world of boxing can get the greatest content that the web has seen, Boxing Ego. So please help me spread the word so we can inform as many people who want to grow and learn with the sport of boxing. SLC, subscribe, like, and comment. You know, as far as Danny Garcia saying Errol Spence is a middleweight, like, you know, it is what it is. Errol Spence admits that he ballooned up to 180s, 190 almost prior to the Sean Porter and the Mikey Garcia fight. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys where you would be surprised what they walk around with. Like, I heard from many, like a trusted source, that Canelo Alvarez, like when he was at 154, they said he was in his offseason, he was weighing over 200 pounds. You know what I'm saying? And if you go back and look at the Jose Cito Lopez fight, he was in the 170s at the 30-day WBC mandatory weigh-in. And that was back when he was at junior middleweight 154. So again, that's just what it is in boxing. You know, I don't really know what made Danny Garcia bring up that specific point, but Danny, along with pretty much anyone else in boxing in this modern age. These guys don't campaign at a weight class that they fight near. You know, that's just the reality of it. I mean, even in the UFC, you look at guys like Conor McGregor. When he was making featherweight, you got to a point where he was looking like a skeleton at the weigh-in. And I was wondering, I'm like, how is he even making 145? How is he making this weight? And he's looking sucked up. And then he would look replenished the next day. So, you know, it is what it is. This is combat sports. Let me know what you guys think. Will this hurt Terence Crawford, just based on the fact that you got a big puncher with a crazy left hook, and he's saying that Errol Spence, a guy he's fought, was like a middleweight, and you know Errol is the naturally bigger guy who didn't come up 3 weight classes? Or will Terence Crawford make the proper adjustments? You guys let me know that in the comment section. Let me know how I did in this video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off. Get it.